Can
I'm
you take
happy to
those,
take
Lauren?
that, Kyle. Yeah, no
Thank
problem.
you, Lauren.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Lauren Rosencrantz. I am co-chair for the Portland Utility Board. For the record, we are not at quorum, so we're not able to officially convene today. We will be meeting effectively just in a discussion capacity, and notes will be shared with other members, but we won't be making any decisions. Is that correct, Amy? I didn't speak. Okay, great. Okay, so we'll go through these slides and then we can move to discussion. Just be aware, everyone, that we won't be able to hold any votes today. So under Portland City Code and state law, the Portland Utility Board is holding this meeting electronically. Board members and relevant city staff are attending remotely, electronically, or by phone, and the city has made it available for the public to listen to the audio broadcast of this meeting. The public will have an opportunity to provide comments during the public comment portion of the agenda, can also provide written testimony to the board by emailing utilityboard@portlandoregon.gov. Excuse me. Pub believes and acts upon anti-racist principles in our meeting spaces and interactions with Pub. While every person has the right to share their personal perspective, we stand against wrongful conduct, particularly any conduct that is targeted toward people that are made vulnerable by systemic inequities. This means stepping up as a community when there is wrongful conduct and fostering a space of learning and growth. Um, Pub puts our principles into action in a way that we are active and deliberate. We speak up and speak out. Each person is empowered to maintain the culture of the Portland Utility Board. We focus on the impacted individual or population, condemning the conduct, not the person.
I will quickly run through the meeting guidelines. This meeting will actually be somewhat more informal because of the size. You can just have open discussion, and I'll let the facilitators decide how they're going to hold that conversation. But just a reminder for everybody that the chat box is only viewable by myself and Jonna Lynn. So limit chats to technical or logistic issues. The raise hand function you may choose to use during the discussion. Otherwise, probably it will just be an unmute and have conversation. And otherwise, mute your microphone because it is not a formal public meeting. There is no decision making, but there is still opportunity to receive public comment for the record, and we can make sure that that is received as part of the record. If somebody is interested, please let Jonna Lynn or I know via chat. So the meeting will look a little bit different, but it was intended to be somewhat of a conversation anyways. So I will just pass the floor to Kyle and we can skip over the subsequent ones since we will not do approval of minutes or anything else.
Beautiful. Thank
Can
you so
we,
much, Amy. Oh, go ahead, Lauren. Sorry.
sorry, Lauren speaking. Or can we still hear updates?
Oh, yeah, I can still provide the updates. Yeah, we
Okay.
can jump to that if you want to. Do you want to do that first, Kyle, before
Yeah,
we?
totally. I
Okay.
have one more functional question too, which is if
Mhm.
this is not a quorum meeting, is it still best practice or preferred that we announce our names before we speak? Because I always forget regardless. And if it's more like a conversational flow, if we just kind of flow with each
Yeah.
other, or if it's Kyle
You
Chipman,
know,
voting member.
yeah, I mean, really, generally, that's been for non-board members, although you guys have done a great job of just adopting it yourselves and you're officially then listed in the record, which works well. For recording purposes and minutes, we rename you all so that your names are on the screen. So it
Mm,
is clearly associated with you in the record itself. So it's not necessary.
cool. I like the rigor on regular meetings, but today I think we just flow with
Yeah.
conversation. Thank you.
All right, then I will jump to just the brief update. So we were going to remind and announce to folks that we have the two co-chairs, Kyle and Lauren, but Lauren has served for a full year. Thank you, Lauren, during a very critical time. But her term is coming to an end this month. And so we are on the verge of identifying who wants to step into that seat, whether Lauren is interested in extending her term or others. So we just wanted to make sure that you were all aware. You should have seen that in the emails as well. And we'll talk about that at the future meeting. But reach out to John, Lynn, or I if you have questions and want more information about the co-chair role. Also, anybody who served previously, Kyle, Lauren, I'm sure are happy to answer any questions that folks have about what it truly means as far as time commitment and stress. Transportation fee discussion, it went back before the Transportation Infrastructure Committee. And so, Jonalyn, you can jump in because you listened to it. I've been out, so I did not listen live, but the Cliff Notes version is that the committee seems inclined towards implementation of the transportation fee, but we don't have a lot of details yet. Is there anything else to add?
Not really. And since that was
Okay.
just discussion at transportation and infrastructure, that's really a limited perspective in terms of what the full council is going to, or how the full council is going to be viewing it. So it is still very much a work in progress.
The other thing just about committees generally in the, well, first budget, the current budget for the city continues to look dire, I guess is the right word. The revenue shortfall is larger than previously expected, up to 22 to 26.5 million for the year. So that just puts council into another notch higher as far as the review that's required as they look towards cuts in the coming year. We'll learn more as they continue to do another update as the budget process proceeds. We have some dates that we'll talk about a little bit later. But we'll continue to get more information. Usually it's through spring, particularly during as they start to receive taxes and other things that impacts the city's revenues and some of their projections. So in the coming months, we'll learn more as well. There have also, not listed here, but I did want to give a brief update just about council schedule. They did review the budget schedule at a meeting just this week. We're still pinning down specific dates. There's some that are still to be determined, but we have a general sense of it. They're also doing that larger developing city priorities as a council. And that process is taking place this month. It's still needs to move forward. I think the goal is to have their priorities developed and approved by the full council by the end of February. It obviously informs budget and many other things as they move forward. Council did just formally elect a new president president of council. And Jamie Dunphy. And so I understand that things obviously shift a little bit as they work out the logistics of their structure as well. They're still determining committee meeting schedules, what the committees will look like, and that I think that there's some potential shifts there. It sounded like generally there's interest and support in maintaining a transportation and infrastructure committee of some sort, but the specific meeting schedule and who's serving on committees and what all the council committees look like is still to be determined. They're still working on logistics for their decision making and meeting schedule for council as a whole. That's what I have so far. Jonalyn or others who listened in, do you have anything else to add?
No, I think that was pretty thorough.
Wonderful segue into open conversation. And as we joined a bit early, just, prepping for the call, a little little chat. Uh, this was as I was just digging into Jamie Dunphy's president, the securing of Jamie Dunphy of the role of council president and Olivia Clark as vice president, just starting to do additional digging into the dynamics of city council as an organizing body and all the challenges they face to keep themselves flowing and clicking and how they actually execute on decisions. And that was almost the first point I wanted to raise among those who are present. Um, it feels like there is such tumult and like gear shifting friction that it feels like in terms of how we interface with council, we are put in a more reactionary position as they're trying to just figure out how they actually make decisions and then rush to get budgetary decisions rendered. Or that's my read on it. Daryl, Brooke, or Lauren, do you all have any other additional takes or details on that front or questions for Amy? Or that's your understanding as well? This is from Oregonian reporting is what I'm pulling from primarily.
No, I agree with you, Kyle. Yeah, they're it's it can be frustrating at times, but they're trying to find their footing as well, I guess. So it's and I do believe they do see the detrimental impacts of not finding that footing. So that I don't believe like they're dragging in any sort of way. I think
Totally.
they're trying to get this organized as quickly as possible so they can address and make timely decisions towards budget.
Yeah, I agreed. I don't bring these points up in a shade throwing way at all. It's like really just thinking ourselves as our own body and how we would interface with all these shifting footholds. Um, I guess then one thing I'll also share my screen and briefly offer up something else I prepared for today. Um, there we go. So it's a mixture of two things. It are three things actually. It's the timeline provided in one of the read aheads of key dates as it relates to the budget cycle, some additional dates and either critical events or time windows that Amy sent over just before the call started, and then all of our scheduled meetings. So just because it's helpful to like, for me, I do like looking at this stuff. Um, if we start thinking about, okay, here's a window, or here's a window, or here's a window, like how our meetings stack up relative to various opportunities in time. Because I guess one more question before I yield the floor again. And oh my God, stop share. There we go. It feels like based around past conversations and the bullet list item that Amy sent over as a read ahead, I actually feel pretty good about being able to dial in quickly and accurately to key talking points and considerations of what we communicate to council. It's more about preparing us for various timed events. If it's landing here, we have to be ready here and we have one person. If it's occurring here, we could have two people present. It's a larger committee session. That's where my head's at. Do other board members feel that way? Cool. Thumbs up from Lauren. And for Shad, for the sake of joining, we are not at quorum, so this is both an informal conversation and probably a shorter. We will not go the full hour and a half as we were not planning to initially. Okay. Does anyone have any board members have any targeted questions or in their own preparation thoughts that were spiking out or jumping out to them? Okay. In that case, I would love to get maybe Amy or John Lynn or both of you or anybody else on the call who has insight to share. Can you speak to like for each of these events or windows of time, what are like maybe the two most likely outcomes, or even we don't even have enough information on how committee structure would look like, so we have to wait another full meeting cycle before we can even project or assess where an engagement might fall.
I believe that what we can anticipate is that at some point, likely in the window at a minimum, I suspect, of the February 23rd to March 6th, when there will be committee presentations on budget information by service area, that whatever committee, likely transportation and infrastructure and or finance, similar to last year, that when the service area is presenting content to council, that is a prime opportunity for pub as the public body, providing advice on that, on some of the services in the public works service area, to share testimony, both in writing and verbal, potentially to council. So what I'll advocate for on the committee side is hopefully to be invited as testimony, if those are the appropriate sessions. And then we will just work with you all between now and whenever that happens to make sure that we have some draft talking points, both at a high level, that a lot of, that we can draft now based on the work that your teams have been doing, as well as what Pub has said in the past and heard from the bureaus. And then those will be tweaked based on the specifics that you'll hear from the bureaus in February, once you hear more about reduction packages, and more about what council is considering for the specifics of both the water and environmental services side of utilities. So I think just continuing to be prepared, because I think that the timeline of when something is scheduled can sometimes be very short. And so I want to make sure that we have some at least basic draft language that either the chairs or other delegates of the board are going to be ready to, jump in, even if we find out at the end of one week that something is happening the following week, that we have some basic information drafted. There obviously then in March, I don't know exactly what the work sessions are going to look like. I imagine a lot of that will focus on the general fund side of things. But potentially there's a large window in there where council is considering a lot of things, and there are going to be elements that overlap with or directly impact utilities. And then, of course, the utility rate review in April is always an opportunity. But the closer you get to that date, by the time council is considering it, they've already, probably made some other decisions on the way there, that those earlier opportunities are more important. But the April 15th rate hearing is another opportunity, regardless of the decisions that are being made for the current year, an opportunity to make sure that some of those big messages that you have around the importance of addressing deferred maintenance and investing, and adjusting rates based on long-term equity, that some of those messages will be important to reiterate then, even if some of the specific decisions have already moved forward.
That makes total sense. Did that resonated with other folks? Actually, I'll speak briefly to my own understanding, which is I kind of feeling that even from our last session, that like a really valuable point of our engagement, in addition to our key talking points, is to provide as much of a equity and community-based lens around the impact of the budget reduction concepts, and just also that very, very clear point for Shad Rose, the point for Shad made regarding this semantic concept of core services as opposed to non-core, where instead, no, everything has a cost and there's an impact on every cut made, that it's that budget reduction concepts is almost, that is like our critical path, or our key launch point of engagement to maximize our impact and our voice. Is that what other people are feeling? That's I heard from really one of the key takeaways I just heard from your summary, Amy. Cool.
And the other piece, timeline wise, that I didn't mention, that I just want to make sure is clear, is that The bureaus are hard at work at their actual documents and decisions that will be moving forward. With the shift in the budget calendar that allows a little bit more time for the bureaus to hone those budget reduction concepts, the information that will be available to the board, the current service level budgets will be submitted in January. Your next meeting is February 2nd or 3rd, whatever that Tuesday is, before the reduction concepts are due on the 9th. So we likely won't have much information unless the bureaus have, concepts that they're wanting to get feedback from the pub on, but most likely it won't be until that 2nd February meeting. But by the time we have that 2nd February meeting, those committee presentations may be just a week or so away. So that the timeline will be pretty quick by the time you get that more detailed information.
I see that. That's this one right here, this Feb 19, relative to but yeah, basically that rolls directly into the presentations is what you're talking about, right? This window
potentially.
Right,
I mean, if transportation and infrastructure continues to meet on Mondays, which we don't know if that will happen. So February 23rd is a Monday and March 6th. So it's basically those 2 weeks. So you meet on Thursday. As early as that Monday could be a committee meeting, whether it's finance or transportation, or it could be another week or so after that. So we won't know until they firm up that meeting schedule, but so we'll share as soon as we know more. We just want to be prepared so that we have your general concepts developed and then enough time to make sure that at that 2nd February meeting, you'll be able to learn enough information and react to it quickly, and decide whether additional meeting or conversations are needed to kind of fine tune any messaging that you may want to make sure that you have for those early meetings if there is opportunity with the committees, because that seems like the most meaningful opportunity or early enough that the committee can act on it or make recommendations.
Okay, I'm locked in with you. Thank you so much. I'm going to repeat, or rather, through my own understanding, kind of speak back and just kind of take us from today forward. So we are meeting. Current service level budgets get submitted, which is a big milestone in between now and our next meeting. And that's another in between next meeting and the meeting after is the budget reduction concepts. And that's basically, that gives us one read ahead and one meeting to get maybe by next meeting, once budget season, budget's been submitted, things are in motion, we make some formal request or look for some aligned opportunity in this window of time right here where the committee presentations are occurring to say, like, we can give brief testimony in conjunction with this presentation. So we kind of use this window of time to make the request. We assess in our read ahead any takeaways from the budgets as submitted at our next meeting. And then really we got this is the critical one. This 219 is when, if we can confirm that there's some point of alignment where we can provide, and I also, to reinforce, I'm in agreement, written and verbal. So we're coming in strong, and these are our points, this is our messaging. And then when we speak and provide testimony, we can also say, hey, we've submitted this in writing with expanded points here and there because we know we have X amount of time. That makes sense. And really it's this 219 is like a critical focal point. And then that's the window of time. Maybe we have one more if it times out in early March, but really lock it in, 219.
And another thing to be aware of, and we'll have to have conversation with the bureaus, but I think, Jonathan, correct me if I'm wrong, that the February 19th is also the date of the first filtration update as well. So that's another topic that we had tentatively have on that agenda because of the work group that is going to be doing some work on that between now and then. So just to keep in mind
Which
another
one's that?
topic for
Could
that.
you repeat that? Filtration update on the 14th of February, you said?
The
The
19th.
19th. Oh, this is on
So
our
that,
day. Oh, I'm
yeah.
so sorry. At our pub meeting, there will be an update, a formal presentation on filtration. I thought it was some other outside thing.
It's that so you have your designees to that
Yes.
expert work team, so it's just an update. So I don't know, it
Thank
may
you.
be a very brief one. It may, we'll know more as that date approaches, and we'll coordinate with you all. But I just wanted to keep that in the back of the mind, just because if it potentially impacts that the budget information requires a little bit more, sometimes we do have to consider, okay, do we need to extend a meeting or schedule something additional for some team to work on something in between? So we'll have those conversations with the chairs as usual, and also just surveying the group, but it kind of depends on the information as it unfolds. I suspect that the current service level budget, a lot of the information that you'll be seeing lines up with the overall messages that the bureaus have shared pretty openly over the years, because you're already aware of what some of the challenges are that they're facing and prior decisions. So I suspect that information won't be surprising, but it will be something for you to react to and incorporate into your messaging.
Beautiful. I have one more question, and I actually have some targeted questions for folks on the call, but one more question for Amy and Jonalyn. How, I might have misread this somewhere. Is there like a significant rethinking of committee structure for city council? Or it's not even quite known? Oh, yeah, gesture is enough. Okay.
It seems likely that some of the main committees that are the more prominent committees will continue in roughly similar structure. So obviously we don't know that for sure, but most likely transportation and infrastructure. Finance could be changing the structure or changing the way that they do financial discussions at council, but we will let you know as things actually as decisions are actually made.
Beautiful. They're still like, you got to do the work. So you got to have the committee to do the work. That's super helpful. And it sounds like it would not significantly impact that. If we're looking at February 3rd to project out our point of engagement for those that 223 through 36, presentations on budget information, the main committees that we interact with would still be around to request some kind of testimony, more or less, as far as we can see. Cool.
And the other date that wasn't on the list that I sent you, but that the Councillor Clark, chair of the Transportation Infrastructure Committee, had previewed for us as a potential date also to engage PUB is around the asset management when the update comes back to them. And so that, again, because their meetings aren't even scheduled, I'm not sure exactly when or if that will still happen in February, but it was projected that there would be some sort of update sometime in February. So there's potential that would happen. Now, some of your potential talking points around asset management have been consistent over the past, several years. And so there's lots to draw from there, as well as a work team that, you folks have been working on your response and perspective related to that. So hopefully that's another item that potentially, if we know more by the February 3rd meeting, might be another area to hone up and make sure that you're prepared if you do want to speak and there is an opportunity.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Amy. Before turning back to our board, Cecilia or Farshad, I know this is a non-quorum meeting, and if you have even half listening or you're doing other things, A-okay. Is there anything, though, that you would say to be aware of that hasn't either been discussed in a previous meeting or that we did not touch on just now? And again, if you're in your car, that's fine. No stress.
Uh, Hi, everybody. Farshad here. I was half listening, but I did appreciate the level of attention and preparation you guys are making towards engagement. I don't know that I have much to add other than to reinforce some comments that others have made about the intensity of the development work that's currently underway and a lot of the uncertainty that still persists. Um, we're going to be down to the wire just to get information to then build budgets around to submit by the 23rd and by the 9th. So I appreciate the recognition that we're cramming, as it were, right now, and that you guys are still, even with that uncertainty about what the budgets for the utilities are going to be, you guys are still planning you're planning your engagements with the various groups in council to support your perspectives. And I suspect this is true, but I'll speak for Cecilia that as soon as we have information that we can share and contribute content to that presentation, those presentations or any of the perspectives you want to share with council, are glad to do it. But we are kind of deep into the details right now and don't have a lot.
Thank you so much for a shot. In spirit, Cecilia, I feel that way too.
No, that was perfect. That's pretty much, I certainly echo what all that Farshad said. So
Beautiful. In the spirit of cramming, then feel free to go off camera, go on mute. Thank you so much for just responding and being present today. Thank you so kindly.
You bet. Thank you, guys.
Cool. Lauren, Daryl, and Brooke, what are your thoughts? What are your instincts? Anything you got? You want to share that jumps out?
I guess functionally, I just wanted to ask, is your mural board, is
Oh
that
yeah.
the main compilation of our talking points where I can
No.
find where we've been sharing them, or
I'd say the rock solid entity is still the issuance of emails coming out from Amy and John, or John Lynn and Amy. Specifically,
gotcha.
Amy prepped her bullet list. John Lynn has those beautiful summaries and the attachments. That will remain our primary point of coordination as a board, or
Perfect.
assessment and preparation for our meetings. But yeah, no, the links you gotten in the past to this board still wide open. So if you just want to dive in, I just use it to kind of gather the pieces and see them in one spot. So it's the same stuff. I guess the only difference here, and probably I'm happy Amy or John Lynn just talk through. It's just a couple of quick bullet points building on some of the consensus around how we use our future meetings. But even that's going to be probably in the agenda or the read ahead.
Okay, understood. And so with the February 19th meeting, we're looking to at least solidify a draft of our talking points to go into
Yeah.
any sort of presentation to council on the 23rd.
Totally. Tell you, I'll give my reiterate where my head's at, and then if we all feel like, okay, that feels pretty good, then we can bring this to larger board discussion. So close this out. Actually, can I go focus mode? Yeah, that's pretty good. All right, sick. So here we are today on our meeting. Next big milestone we're approaching is current service level budgets due on the 23rd, which is a week from tomorrow, next Friday. That basically sets us up for some primary read ahead assessment, takeaways, considerations. And I think the big thing here on our 2-3 meeting is also with everything kind of kicking off and getting submitted, it's starting to look at what is known in this window of time, this 223 to 36, where they're having council presentations on budget information by service area. We get the submissions, we have this window, and at this February 3rd date, we're like, hey, we want to be part of this. We want to provide testimony, and we internally as a board know we want to have not only talking points ready, but there's a written document submitted X amount of time before that meeting. We make our stance known. We want to be part of it. We we strongly suggest we be part of it, or whatever the wording is. Next big point, in between those two, budget reduction concepts, which are the scenarios presented by Cecilia and touched on by Farshad, I think at last meeting, all of, this stuff. No, it's here. It's this one up here. It's one above. All of, I don't remember. I can find it in a bit, but it's that piece where like there's three scenarios: current service, reduction, and whatever the third one is. Once they get those scenarios, I think that's like our really deep dive talking points where we can say, look, if you cut these things, this is the cost, this is the language, this is what we've seen historically. And then maybe there's point A, B, C that we also want to reinforce. But if you make these cuts, this is the impact. And that's when we lock down our messaging on 219.
Perfect. That sounds like
Is
a
that
plan to me. Yeah.
you
And
feel the same?
Daryl, as far as what it looks like, so the document that went out with read ahead, actually I can pull it up really quickly just to give you a sense so that you know. So what I did was just tried to distill some long talking points into these bullet points just to get the themes of some of the areas that Pub has consistently touched on within each of the areas that your work teams were focusing. And so this has some elements of the prior talking points. The actual talking points themselves, we will help write based on what we hear from you in discussion and in meetings, or drawing from other documents, and discussions that you've had before. So we help craft the words that go into the letters, as well as what is said verbally in front of council, as well as you each have, discretion to, kind of say it in your own words, as long as it lines up with what the board has said. So these are the general areas. It doesn't mean that it's limited to these. Something else could emerge, and there's something else that's a high priority that you want to make sure is highlighted. It also won't contain all of these elements, because these are just bullet points and it's 2 pages. And if you have 3 to 5 minutes to speak, this already is a lot of content. So once you add all the words that make them into full sentences and statements, it's much longer than that. So you kind of have to pick and choose what are the highest priorities given what you've seen. So we'll continue to work on that. We just want to make sure that you each of your work teams and as individuals at a minimum maybe look at this document and highlight what you think is missing, or what you think is most important, or what you think isn't worth focusing on right now. So any of those three things could be helpful to share with us as staff, or in the group discussions as you formulate things. So there's clearly, a high focus on the asset stuff and equity. And so making sure that those, as well as effective engagement of the board, kind of seem to be the highest priorities, to make sure that there's some clear talking points.
Okay. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, I was just trying to hone in on where the compilation was, and where to feed any sort of alterations or advancements I think of too.
Yeah, please send anything to both Jonalyn and myself, and we'll make sure that it gets integrated into the next version that the full pub considers. So this is a good starting place, and then any other more detailed documents. And if these raise questions for you and you want to see more resource or ask questions, then let us know, because as the bureaus get to the point where they've actually prepared the information, then it's in February, March, that if there's questions that help hone your talking points, those are where we'll focus with the bureaus to see if there's any additional information that's needed so that you can be very clear and impactful with what you're saying.
Beautiful. Thank you, Amy. Brooke.
Yeah, hi, hey everyone. Yeah, thank you for providing those talking points. It's really helpful to just have them all like listed out and gives a little peek. I kind of wanted to just pick the brains of the folks who were involved last year as well, and maybe have a open-ended question as far as like approaches that maybe didn't resonate or things that we might want to focus on this time in terms of like how we deliver these talking points, or even like, you know, whether we need to be cognizant of overwhelming with too many points, or and want to try to refine to like maybe I don't want to say the most urgent, but like as I'm reading through them, there are like kind of broader talking points that are more strategic and are applicable over a longer time scale. I was trying to parse like ones that were maybe like immediate or for like relevant specifically to last year's budget cycle. So I kind of wanted to just, uh, I guess, yeah, see if there's any like reflection from last year, or if there's anything that we need to keep in mind from last time now, and then if it makes sense to try to organize thoughts not only by topic but also by like quote unquote time span or time horizon.
Oh, actually, if you want to take it first, Amy, and I can follow up. Oh, you're muted. You're muted, Amy.
Sorry, I thought I had clicked that. Very good points, Brooke. Yes, I do think it's very important to identify the areas that are the highest focus. And I think part of what resonated really well last year was the from the bureaus doing it directly and then pub kind of echoing the similar sentiment was not was taking the affordability piece and shifting to recognizing the actual direct impact on individual bills and kind of the balance between the impact on the bureaus and city service versus the benefit that individual customers were going to see. It only making a 50-cent difference, for example, on the monthly bill when the impact was significant. So that kind of messaging was really important. The direct connection between the investment in infrastructure balanced with affordability, and making sure that it's clear that both are important, but given that, what is the financial planning that's necessary, and the focus on generational equity. So I think those were really meaningful. I think it also is very important for PUB to continue to advocate for effective engagement of you as a board, as an advisory body. I don't think you need to necessarily get into the weeds of specifics like with natural resources or even with One Water, but just continuing to reemphasize that message of both the interest, the expertise that's available, and that it takes time to make sure that you're adequately engaged before decisions are made. So I think that's been an important message to articulate to council, and continues to be so.
Thank you so much. Full agreement. And I'm just looking through like timeline. So reinforcing the point Amy made, specifically I think it's late March. I can't find the exact date, but we definitely issued written communication March 21st and April 1st to city leadership, mayor, and then council president, vice president, with a specific focus to transportation and infrastructure committee chair and vice chair. And the good thing is that, especially on the committee, Olivia Clark and Angelita Murillo, like they all the same people. So we would be addressing the same people. We submitted written communication, both recommendations of what we see around concerns on rate. It was, sorry, you could tell I'm kind of thinking with all this darting movement. We were specifically targeting language around rate increase based on guidelines from the previous administration to just, it was a cap, right? The cap as opposed to giving flexibility so the utilities could actually, or the bureaus can give more bend and shift to address these rising costs. So that was a focal point with a couple of other budget recommendations in written form. And then the bureau leadership provided, they addressed and presented to council directly. And it was Julie and myself who then provided additional testimony to say, like, yes, from a community perspective, this is why we're in agreement, moving away from the previous decision by the past mayor into this cycle. So it's like a functional examination, written submission, verbal testimony, but at a human level, what was really helpful is it felt like, because it was myself and Julia who did the testimony, and council gets the meat of the presentation from the bureaus. Like, they're getting the actual data. Here's the implications. Here's the why. Here's the how. Here's option 1, 2, 3. What they get from us is like pretty tight in terms of actual communication, but this is where our voice matters. We are able to say, look, from a community perspective, this matters. Giving flexibility to the bureaus means they can invest more, that they have this kind of resources available. And it almost gives a little extra oomph for council if it's a challenging decision to be courageous in their decision making in a long-term way and not shirk through other challenges. So there's like emotional resonance that comes through, I think. Does that, Lauren, does that ring true to you? I know you're on a work, or speak if you choose.
Thanks. Yeah, no, I would agree. Echoing what everyone said so far.
Cool.
Yeah.
I feel pretty good. Any board members, any other thoughts you want to raise? I feel pretty tight around like how we move forward.
I had one quick clarification.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Brooke Brown, a voting member. I have one quick clarification question on the timeline that you laid out in terms of pub action. So I just want to make sure the February 3rd you identified, Kyle, as when we kind of need to like decide if we want to give testimony. Is that correct?
I think so.
Okay.
It feels like that's if we wait any longer, it feels like more and more stuff starts happening. Here, I'm actually gonna share this is just a gut level. With how compressed everything is and how reactionary all these pieces are, it feels like that's our shot. We decide as a board, yes, we want to meet, and there's as much clarity as we get in this window to say, yes, we want to meet, and it makes sense to present to this subcommittee that's having this specific meeting, if that's available. And then we're like, lock it in, send out the request, get us on the agenda. And then we really take the meeting on the 19th to tune up the messaging as we have all of these materials in hand. That's my gut.
And my caveat to that is that I would assume that if there's a committee session that's going to be hearing about the utilities, that pub should testify. I believe that you will want to. And it will be more a reaction to when it's scheduled. So that's the part that we will be monitoring and trying to find out from the back end, both from the executive leadership as well as from within the budget office, as soon as we know anything as potential tentative dates, that we'll firm that up and share that with board members so that we can be working towards that. So it's more of a, figuring out who is available and interested in providing that testimony. Worst case scenario, when pub members can't, we can do it as staff on behalf of you, but it really is clearly much more meaningful and impactful from you all. So we will help with the crafting of it all and the logistics.
Yeah, it's like emotional resonance.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess, go ahead, Brooke, sorry.
Oh, yeah, well, Amy, you kind of answered what was going to be my follow-up question was like, yeah, is there a situation where we would not want to take this opportunity. But and I just couldn't like think of any specific factors, but if there were that other than logistics that like might impact that decision, if any of y'all have any thoughts on what those might be, if they
Dude,
exist.
I want to make all this time we put in count. Like we have all these meetings. Like let's actually show up.
Right. Yeah,
That's
exactly.
what I
It's
want to
like,
do.
okay,
Yeah,
just just
I
just double
can't
check.
imagine why not, because there's at a minimum, no matter what, there are challenges that the utilities face that aren't going to be resolved in this budget cycle, right? So there's
Hmm.
important messages for you to still hit home with council regardless of what the specifics of the scenarios look like. I mean, there for the most part, I think your priorities and values are lined up with what the utilities have been. It also, there's always the chance that something that they put forward, if particularly if there's something that you have serious concerns about moving forward, then it just kind of elevates that as the highest priority if you're on a different page than what leadership is advancing,
Uh,
which is less
on,
likely given current circumstances, but it has happened. So,
in that spirit, that's where my head was going as well. It's not just like we validate our own time invested, but also many of the past documents or written records or whatever, the stuff that gets sent to council is always like, you got to engage us earlier, which is valid and true. And we reinforce that position by showing up strong and like
Hmm.
being fully prepared. Like, yes, engage us earlier because we are valuable assets. So it's as much, yes, that's an additional benefit we get from like for sure being present.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, that makes total sense.
Cool. Any final thoughts from anybody on the call?
I have a
Daryl, I
comment.
saw you.
Go
Oh,
ahead.
Daryl,
Sorry,
yeah.
I just saw that Daryl was unmuted for a minute. I just wanted to see if Daryl had comments that he wanted to.
Oh, no, no. Brooke spoke to it quite potently, so I'm good.
Lauren?
Yeah, it's a bit of a subject change, so I wanted to wait until the end. Just talking about co-chair stuff, um, and kind of on the vein of, putting our work into action. Um, I I know we shouldn't have like an official discussion right now, and I'm happy to put this in an email, but just wanted to say that like my current plan for the like upcoming co-chair is to make space for some of the new members to take on that role if they're interested, because I just don't want to hoard the leadership things, and like I know Brooke's doing some of this committee work and then also the panel, so I don't know who would be interested. I just wanted to put that out there for Daryl and Brooke who are here, and I'll put the same thing in an email that I do want to open up that space to give other people a chance. And if that is something that either of you or the people that any other folks when I reach out are interested in but are concerned about time commitments. I mean, Amy, you mentioned this at the beginning. Yes, we are 100% open to answer questions. It doesn't require any kind of expertise. I definitely came in kind of still figuring out how pub works. So there's a lot of support. And I'm happy to, keep going if we need another co-chair and there's no other interest. But I just want to put that out there that like I do want to provide that space should somebody else want to take a more leadership role and be a bit more active, in line with like meeting with leaders, etc. Yeah, Kyle, go ahead.
Thank you, Lauren. I'll offer a additional observations and complement to your own for those who may be watching the recording, which is I have found the great value of stepping into this co-chair role as the ability to enunciate and define a vision and work in collaboration and consensus to set agenda and think in long-term ways. That's the really helpful part of serving in this position. And I say that as well, that for those who are perspective, Amy and John and Lynn are such phenomenal people and professionals, and they do such a heavy lift in both of you in a functional way to like get everybody prepared that it's if you have low capacity and can simply execute in the role, or if your capacity opens up and you're able to actually build vision and work towards consensus, it can bend and flex. And just as always, appreciation to John and Lynn and Amy for all the work that you do functionally.
Yeah, I would highly, highly agree with that. All the work that you two do makes being a volunteer so much more accessible and meaningful. So yeah, I would agree with that. Like, I think everybody could bring any kind of strength to this role. You don't necessarily have to be a leader or a project manager, right? It's just kind of taking, going a bit deeper, you know.
You don't have to be a project manager to work here, but it helps. That's
Yeah.
a t-shirt, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and yeah, good point, Kyle. Like for the members who are watching the recording, you know, opening that up for whoever is interested, and I'm happy to help. And if not, you know, we can, you know, I can keep going as normal. But I just wanted to express that I want to open that space for whoever wants to be more involved.
Beautiful. And I'm super pumped for yourself and Brooke to be on the expert panel. Like use your technical skills and understanding and really be a strong applied voice to the community and report back. Like I think it's gonna be so sick to see that play out.
Yeah, I'm really thrilled about it too. And it's one of those things where it's like kind of my bread and butter. So I feel almost like I'm doing the same thing that you know, I'm signing up for the thing that like I'm not really branching out. But yeah, it's exciting, and I think that's something that I feel pretty strongly about. So I'm happy to kind of be just that go-between person, or one of the go-between people.
I have a parting thought on this topic, and then maybe we just move to adjourn if there are no other points. But the parting thought is it's pretty cool that we can continue to use those small two-person teams to like slice out talking points. And I just love that. Really tight, little focused, self-organizing units. That's something I'm excited to continue pursuing. So if anybody steps into that co-chair role, whoever steps into that co-chair role, continuing to think of ways that we can be not either nimble or set ourselves up for long-term structural success. Sounds like a good effort for a guiding principle as city council defines their own path forward. And they have far greater challenges than a whole city to manage. We got a little bored. Okay, any final thoughts? My heart to city council, man. That's and like as everything's moving in real time too. Oh boy, that's intense. Any final thoughts before we adjourn for the day? Have a wonderful lunch, everybody.
Yeah,
Thank
you
you,
too.
everybody.
Take care.